Sleeping on the ground and staying comfortable while sleeping on the ground out on a backpacking trip seems to be something that a lot of people struggle with. Be it overall comfort, be it getting cold, be it dealing with a bunch of condensation. There are a bunch of different things that you can do to greatly improve your sleeping situation when you're out on a backpacking trip. Right now, I am out on a 6-day backpacking trip. We are just starting day 4 today, and I've been exclusively sleeping on the ground, was not able to bring my hammock for this trip. So thought I would go over some things that I do when I'm setting up my tent, and just some things that I do and things that I look for when it comes to picking a site for my tent. And just things that make life a little bit easier when I'm sleeping on the ground. And it all starts with site selection. You need to find a spot that's flat, a spot that's big enough that's going to fit the footprint of your shelter, your tent, your tarp, whatever it is you're setting up. You also want to take into consideration, any widow makers. You want to look up, make sure there's no overhanging branches, no dead trees that are leaning over onto another tree, anything that could come crashing down on you and just cause a terrible, terrible situation overnight. Now, you found a nice flat spot. Obviously, you want to make sure it doesn't have, a whole bunch of roots and rocks and whatever in that spot. That's going to make it really, really uncomfortable. Once we have selected our site and we've, started getting our tent or our shelter set up, we need to start thinking about comfort, and we need to start thinking about just things that are going to make life more comfortable for us throughout the night, as we're going to be sleeping in our tent. And one of the big ones is making sure that we've got all the vents on our tent opened up. Most tents will have vents either on the top or somewhere on the side walls, so you want to make sure that those are opened up. Another thing that you can do to give yourself a lot of more comfort inside your shelter is, if you have any side pullouts, if you engage those, what those will do is they'll pull the side of your shelter out, and it'll just give you more livable space inside. It's not going to make you feel like you're as crammed. And as well, if you have pullouts at the bottom of your tent, a lot of people don't tend to do those. And what those do, like if I back this pullout off completely, right, the fly of my tent goes right to the ground. And that creates a big issue when it comes to, dealing with moisture and getting condensation inside the tent. So what I do is I'll pull this cord here, pull out that pullout, and what that does is it raises it up off the ground. I can get my full hand underneath that, and that's going to let airflow go underneath, and it's going to push all that moisture up through the top and out through the top vent. It's just going to help eliminate a lot of the unnecessary condensation that's going to build up inside your tent. So we've got our site selected, we've set up our tent, and we've got everything guyed out in a way that's going to help promote as much airflow as possible to really help cut down on the condensation we could be dealing with. And the next steps that we can take to making our life a lot more comfortable when it comes to sleeping on the ground inside a tent is things that we actually have inside the tent with us. If you're somebody that has an issue dealing with the ambient noise, say you've got a flowing creek next to you, or just, the wind rushing through the trees, or just nature sounds in general, if that kind of stuff is going to bother you while you're sleeping, maybe you set it earplugs. I know a lot of people who bring earplugs with them on backpacking trips, and it helps them sleep, and that's what helps get them through the nights on their trips. Having a bottle of water always helps. Especially when you're getting into the shoulder season, you want to try and keep things like water from freezing overnight. So, keeping your water inside your shelter is never a bad thing. You wake up in the middle of the night a little bit parched, have a little sip. Something to entertain yourself, if you want to bring a book, if you want to, put some movies on your phone or put some books on your phone. I know a lot of people like doing that. But the big one when it comes to comfort inside the tent is your sleep system itself. Talking about your top insulation, either your top quilt or your sleeping bag. Make sure you've got something that's amply or sufficiently rated. For the temperatures that we're dealing with right now, my 20-degree UGQ Bandit top quilt is more than enough. I've been very, very warm with this top quilt. And making sure you've got the adequate rated sleeping pad for the temperatures you're going to be dealing with. Having a sleeping pad that is insufficiently rated tends to be the biggest reason why people have cold sleeps out in the backcountry. So making sure you've got an adequately rated sleeping pad. You know, like here I've got the Nemo Tensor insulated sleeping pad. It's got an R value of 4.2, so it's very, very warm, and it's great on these really, really cool nights that we've been experiencing. Now, if you weren't aware, I actually do much prefer sleeping in a hammock than sleeping on the ground in a tent. And if you're interested in why I prefer sleeping in a hammock over sleeping on the ground, I've done a video on that, and I'll fire that right here for you. So check that out when you're done with this one. I think you'll enjoy that. As always, I'm Matty. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.